Hello everybody and welcome to the Siege Mailbox. This is a video series where you the viewer post your Siege related questions and topic discussions in the comments, and there's a chance I'll cover them in the next video. Now there is no such thing as a silly question, so make sure you drop them in the comments. Hit that sub button if you haven't already, since it does help a lot, and let's get into this very first question. So this first one is by Mark Scout, and he says, what do you think is happening with Clash? She wasn't present in the Siege X beta, and do you think she's getting a remaster? So I think that's a very good question, because although we don't technically know what they're doing with Clash, Ubisoft have actually shown off official teaser images of what does look like a potential remaster to Clash, as we can see a new look both for her and for her shield, which I guess I should also mention could just be an elite skin as well. There's no way of actually saying if this different look for the shield and this different look for her isn't just a cosmetic based thing. But what you're looking at right now is an official image posted by Ubisoft, which was published at the same time as Siege X's reveal, which does show this new look for Clash. Now, I'm going to talk about this image again in a second, but what I also want to mention as well, during the first ever teaser for Siege X, that one which takes place on the clubhouse hallway in the basement, if you look through the breached wall on the left, you can actually see Clash's shield in the background. So with that very first teaser having Clash's shield present in it, and now this official image which has kind of went under the radar, but is still a publicly posted photo by Ubisoft, I definitely think they are trying to hint at something. So let's take a look at this image of Clash again. Keep in mind, this could very well just be an elite skin. Her shield may be an elite gadget skin, and something I also want to point out is she does have hair. Now, also think back to a few weeks ago when we saw on the marketplace that Clash had a new updated face model. I think regardless if she is getting a remaster or not, a new face model was definitely needed for Clash. Her current face model just is not as quality as any other operators. Like, I can look at some other operators' faces and I can see like that could be a real person. Whereas Clash's one feels like it was kind of made in like the early 2000s as a background NPC. Just the level of quality between her face model and other operators' face models, there's a big difference. So very potentially, Clash could just be getting an updated face model to more match the quality of Siege's other face models. They might be giving her an elite skin, hence why the shield looks different, or this could actually be a remastered version of Clash. What could this shield actually do? Well, taking a look at the one we can see, it definitely seems like we still have the zapping feature, I can imagine. We can also see that it is still a full body shield, but what I like to think could potentially happen here is that big black bit at the bottom can retract all the glass at the top, and then you can sort of use it as a stationary shield, which you can then shoot over. Sort of like a deployable shield. This would then sort of make her like a defending version of Osa, but if the shield is then in that state, it also shares the same properties as a deployable shield, so then you can Gun 6 it, grenade it, Flores it. If this is a remaster, I like to think they are going to address a lot of the frustration which Clash has. Maybe there isn't any electricity at all. Maybe that's one of the key things which are leaving, because there is this big square thing in the middle of this shield. And I know I'm about to go off the deep end here, but just hear me out. What if this is sort of like a magnet like Wamai, and Clash, instead of zapping enemies, can just catch projectiles with her shield, propel them back, or just destroy them, which means instead of Clash now zapping enemies to slow them down, she catches their projectiles to slow them down. But then it's also less frustrating from the attackers because they can still now obviously get up close and personal with Clash, which then also means that Clash and her teammates have to protect her better. I think there's a lot of avenues they could go down with Clash, which makes her less frustrating, but still keeping her useful, and overall just a more balanced operator. So I am really interested to see what a potential version of a Clash remaster could look like. But yeah, I just want to make you aware, this image does exist. This is a publicly posted official image by Ubisoft. They have been teasing a lot of stuff with Clash recently, so I would not be surprised if Clash does end up getting a remaster very soon. But yeah, make sure you let me know your thoughts about this image of Clash. This next one is by Invisible, and they say, what are your thoughts on the dual front game mode? Clearly, in the game mode, some characters get a pretty big buff, while others are subpar. For instance, Amaru is buffed because there is a lot more outside play now, but someone like Maestro gets nerfed because between defending your own site and attacking the other, you really don't have a lot of time to deploy and use Evil Eyes. So to start off with, I'll go to the extent and say I love Dual Front. I think it's extremely fun. I really love synergizing attackers and defenders, and there's so many unique scenarios in that mode. Does it replace 5v5? Absolutely not, but it's not trying to replace 5v5. This is just another mode. This is an addition. And I've already heard so many people in my daily life who know I do Siege content, and they've told me, I tried the 6v6 beta and I really liked it. It's a breath of fresh air for the game. So a lot of casual players and people who maybe just dip their toe in Siege occasionally seem to really like this 6v6 mode, and I think that's great. And me as a hardcore, I also really enjoy it. But I want to address your point talking about some operators being a bit better than others, because I definitely agree. So something I think they could do across the board, because attackers and defenders are now working together, is maybe make every operator the same speed. Either make everyone a 3 speed or make everyone a 2 speed, but I don't like the fact that some operators are slower than others. Another thing, when it comes to scopes, in Core Siege, I make my stance clear. I don't think there should be any ACOGs on defense. I think ACOGs should only be on attack. In Dual Front, however, I would be happy for every operator and every gun to have the option of ACOG in this mode. Because A, I think that would make a lot of things more fair for a lot of operators in this mode. And B, I think you're just going to interest a lot of people, because then you can say, well, if you want to play Maestro ACOG or Jaeger ACOG, you can do it in Dual Front. I also feel like respawns should be 10 seconds quicker than they currently are. I think when operators are injured, they shouldn't sponge as many shots as they do, but I am fine with the time to kill. I actually quite like that the time to kill is a bit slower than in standard Siege. But yes, when it comes to operator balancing, I'm happy to have Dual Front remain fun in that sense. I know there is a level of competitiveness you still have to have, and potentially you may get a ranked one day, but I'm fine with every operator having an ACOG. I'm fine with every operator being the same speed. I think at its core, Dual Front should be more of this playground while still being competitive, because at its core, it always will be competitive. Even if you give every operator an ACOG, even if you make every operator the same speed, if you throw in a ranked reward and a rank system into that, people will grind it. If they're going to get like a badge for their profile or a rank or something which makes them visibly better than another player, people will be competitive. I saw Thakil saying that he thinks the game itself should be 10v10 and then they add a ranked mode to it, which is 6v6. I necessarily wouldn't be against that either, but I think 6v6 still works pretty fine when you are playing the objective. So yeah, I don't think traditional Siege operator balancing should come into play in Dual Front. I understand you want consistency across modes, but it would also just be really cool to have Jaeger ACOG in this mode with it still being balanced. But yeah, I think the mode is a blast and I've had tons of fun with it. Also, before I conclude this question, allow recruit stacking in Dual Front. I want 6 strikers, 6 sentries. I want as many as possible to be allowed to play, because that would just be so much fun in my opinion. This next one is by MontyGod, and they ask, do you think we need a ranked 3.0? One that will make people less focused on KD and more focused on the objective and support instead of just kills and aim. So I think this is a great question, and as you mentioned, I did talk about this in my stream. I don't really think this is necessarily a rank 3.0 question. I think this is more of a player profile question. One of the things which has always been a core part of Siege and something that we always tell new players is that this game isn't all about kills. An Echo with 0 kills can be equally or even more important than a teammate who has like 8 kills, for example. We've always been taught to play the objective. That is the main thing, stopping a plant, using our gadgets. It isn't all about guns and kills. Yet when you click on your player profile and when you've got all these like R6 stat websites, the main thing which is hammered in is your KD. That's like such a big part of your player profile. And I feel like that's had a really bad effect on the community and how people play the game, because from a player profile perspective, how many kills you get in a round, way more important than how many gadgets you used, how many gadgets you countered, how you done that. This person who is hard picking, I don't know, Monty and Echo and playing hard support for their teammates, and they may win the game without even a single kill, that isn't really reflecting on their player record. Whereas a teammate who may not be droning, who may just be swinging everything, but getting kills for doing so, visually, they are regarded as a better player than the other one. So if I'm being honest, I would actually like it if KD wasn't a visible thing on your player profile. Have it in the career section, don't get me wrong, and have your player player stats there. Let people know what their KD is. Don't hide it. But I think on your player profile, it should have like average points or something like that. Because you still get points for killing, so that means kills will still count. But then that also means people who are reinforcing, who are placing their gadgets, who are destroying utility, who are doing X, Y, and Z, droning, pinging, everything. I just think pushing KD as such a big thing on players' profiles completely goes against the mindset which Ubisoft have for their own game. I just think it's quite counterproductive, and it teaches players bad habits. Because why would this average player care about playing the support role when they could just be out there fragging and getting their visual KD on their profile up so they can then show off to their friends and on TikTok and stuff like that, whereas these support players don't really have anything to show for it. I think that is a genuine fundamental flaw of the core game and influences a sort of bad playstyle. And I think it would also just be a good time to then rework the whole point system in Siege as well to reflect this. So this next one has kind of came from two people since they are very similar questions, which is MMA Grey as well as Young Fly. And they're both talking about having the existence of non-metal beams inside of destructible floors in Rainbow Six Siege, similar to how it acted in the Grand Larceny event, and if this is something that could come in Siege X. Now, if you haven't played the Grand Larceny event before, which is a high chance you haven't, it's only ever appeared once, but it's honestly my favorite event. Basically, this event took place on the old version of Hereford Base, the very old version, and the main gimmick of this mode was that there was no metal beams inside of the floors. Basically meaning that every piece of wooden floor was basically a hatch because you could just drop through since there was no metal beam stopping you. Now, this is a really cool gimmick we've only ever seen in that mode, but it's something which has been a reoccurring discussion in the community, and now some people are proposing the question of potentially having this in maps going forward with Siege X. So what I imagine you mean by this is that certain rooms on certain maps will just have no metal beams in the floor. It will just have wooden beams, meaning that they could then be destroyed. We'll take a room like Construction on Clubhouse, for example. The rest of the map can just act as it currently does, but now Construction has a fully wooden floor which has no metal beams in it. The first issue I could see coming if they do this is you could then just potentially block off an entire room by destroying the floor, and then no one can cross through the room, whether that's an attacker or a defender. So if defenders are defending CC, for example, they could just kind of get rid of Construction altogether. And I think right there is genuinely the major reason why we've never had something like this in the core game itself. I also think Ubisoft just want to keep consistency across the game. They don't want to start introducing wooden floors that can be breached through. They want players to know that if there's a wooden floor there, yes, you can play vertical through it, but you cannot pass through it. Now, this actually reminds me of a concept I made for an attacker that could potentially come to the game, where they can make their own hatches and basically destroy these steel beams through the floor, and then maybe like a flimsy little ladder can drop down so people can climb up and down it. Oryx and Amara would be able to take advantage of it. This is an operator concept I am always pushing for. But I also understand if we never get this, because it would probably be an absolute pain to implement, it'd be a pain to balance, and you're just opening a bit of Pandora's box when it comes to shaping parts of the maps which have never been able to be shaped before. So thank you for bringing up this whole Grand Larceny style of wooden floors. I always love talking about it, but I just feel like it's something which is never going to be implemented, even with all the new environmental aspects of Siege X. So this next one is by Alpha26, and they ask, do you think this Siege will lean into the gritty themes in the skins and cosmetics as well, or just for the lore? So what I believe you are meaning here is, more recently, Ubisoft have really trying to get Siege's identity back. They've been trying to make it more gritty than it has been. They're trying to sort of rope everything back in, at least in the narrative. So do I think that will reflect in skins? Maybe, but I think you're still always going to get these wacky skins like the crossover we just had for the boys and every other wacky skin that comes to the game. And people complain, but at the end of the day, it's a video game, and what makes money for this company is what they will do. So like, even me who prefers grounded skins, I get it. But at the end of the day, these skins probably make about 3 or 4 times the amount of money that a grounded skin does. So why wouldn't Ubisoft do that? People are paying for them. Although you're getting people saying that no one wants these skins, this doesn't fit Siege X, Y, and Z, it'll end up being a bestseller within the same week. So yeah, I would of course love to see more grounded, lore-based, gray skins, and potentially they had a bigger team, I guess. Maybe they could do that. And I'm not saying they don't have a big team, but what I mean here is you still have to put priorities on stuff. You still have to have deadlines, you still have to have quotas of different skins and stuff like that. and you're going to go for the ones which are selling the most. If they just had infinite resources and a bunch of people could do this, like, unstop, like there's no tomorrow, then yes, in my perfect world, I would have, you know, I don't know, like 10 insanely wacky skins per season and then like 15 insanely gritty ones. But it's just not the case. There's so much money that goes into the development of these skins, so they're going to focus on the ones which have the biggest return on investment. Doesn't mean they're not going to make more great skins and do all that stuff, but they're just going to prioritize the skins which sell the most, and currently it does seem like the skins that do sell the most are the wacky sort of Fortnite referred to ones. So yeah, I can criticize them as much as I want for not making as many grounded skins as they do, but at the end of the day, they are technically giving the people what they want, so who am I to blame them? And I just want to address this one, which a lot of people have been saying before the Siege X reveal, which I think is pretty cool to look at in retrospect, considering we now know what is coming with Siege X next season, because they were saying that a good buff for Warden would have been to give him smoke grenades. Now, if you have seen the Siege X reveal, if you've seen my gameplay and my coverage of Siege X, then you know that next season, when Siege X does come out, Year 10 Season 2, we have new environmental items on the maps. Well, the modernized maps. And there's going to be 3 new ones every season, with one of them being a fire extinguisher that when shot deploys a bowl of smoke, meaning that either attackers or defenders can use this to their advantage. So technically we are actually getting smoke grenades on defense in a sense, which allows you to play Warden in a brand new way. I just think that's quite a fun question to look at that was asked before the Siege X reveal, because we've kind of technically gotten that in a bit of a different, unique way, but somewhat still the same outcome. And so everyone, that is going to do it for this episode of the Siege Mailbox. If you have your own questions, then be sure to ask them in the comment section below. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy, sub if you are new, and have an incredible rest of your day. Hope you'll stay safe, drink some water, and have a good one. Goodbye!